Hello guys, how you doing? Full time at the Amex. Brighton nil, Arsenal 3. A really impressive result for Arsenal today. I'm not there, as you can see. I'm actually in Philadelphia at the moment. As some of you may know, I'm a big wrestling fan, and as a kind of once in a lifetime treat to myself, I booked to come out here for WrestleMania in Philly. But having a great time. It's a great city. Watched the game in a bar with a few friends, and a few Arsenal fans gathered there as well. And I couldn't have been more impressed. I have to say, I was a bit nervous going in. I looked at this weekend and I thought, this feels like a Man City weekend. You know, the way they powered back to win yesterday, quite emphatically against Crystal Palace. And I looked at Arsenal's game. I looked at Liverpool's game, which we'll see tomorrow at Old Trafford, and thought, those are two of the tougher games of the run-in for those particular teams. And just felt like this might be a weekend where maybe the balance of power shifted maybe towards City. I have to be honest, that was how I felt going in. But Arsenal just put that to bed with a professional, grown-up, mature performance. Looking? It's not a word, looking. But the stats speak for themselves. Arsenal in the Premier League in 2024, 11 games, 10 wins, 38 goals scored, and 4 goals conceded. It's an extraordinary run. And when you consider that the game they didn't win of those 11 was the draw at Man City, you know, holding them to a 0-0 draw, one that maintained opposition ahead of City in the table at that particular time. You've got to say it's brilliant. And the last week in particular, you know, 2 tough away games either side of that Luton match. City, then Brighton. To come away with 7 points is very good. As I say, I thought this was a hard game going in. I know Brighton's form's been a bit patchy in the Premier League, but we know they're a capable side. I think probably only the North London derby and Old Trafford worry me more on paper than having to go to Brighton. I know we've got Villa, but I think we'll be all right against Villa. Remember when people kept saying Villa had to be considered to be in the title race? That was a surreal time in the season. But Arsenal just handled it so well. Defended brilliantly. You know, when David Raya did have to make a save, he did make an excellent one in the first half. Gabriel celebrating in his own penalty box, a block in the final few minutes. And we had that penetration. We had that ability going forward. Stick on penalty. Saka steps up. I think that's the best penalty I've ever seen Bukayo Saka take. I've said in the past when, you know, I felt a bit nervous about him stepping up or not been entirely convinced, but he buried that one in the bottom corner. Kai Havertz scores again. I'm going to talk about him in a minute. It was a surprise to see Jorginho popping up in the penalty box. And then Leandro Trossard against his former club breaks away and finishes so well. The best finisher at the club? I think he probably is. When he broke away, I thought it was Jorginho. I was like, who's that little bloke running through on goal? Because I was watching a bar, I was a little bit busier than normal, had a couple of drinks. I was like, who's that? Is that Jorginho? I was like, well, they're going to catch him in a minute. But it wasn't, thankfully. It was Trossard, and he held his nerve brilliantly. 3-0 at Brighton. I'm trying to think, if Liverpool had done that or City had done that, I'd be feeling really disheartened right now because it was just so efficient, so controlled, as I say, mature. I really think it's an outstanding result, a really good performance, and it's kind of crazy that we're on this run that we're on, and yet it's still so tight at the top. This is quite unprecedented, I think, anything like this, to have 3 teams sort of neck and neck effectively in the title race. That's a WhatsApp message coming through. I can't remember too many times where that's happened. Anyway, let's talk about Kai Havertz. When we signed Kai Havertz, I don't know if you all remember back in the summer, I was doing a lot of YouTube videos at the time, but I spoke about him then. Initially, when we were first linked, I saw him as a striker. And then the information we were getting was that Mikel Arteta wanted to use him as a midfield player. And even when they signed him, they announced him as a midfield player, which is quite unusual. They sort of said in the press release, on the official statement, we've made an addition to our midfield in Kai Havertz. And I almost feel like that's something they needed to do for him. He'd had such a sort of almost traumatic time as a striker at Chelsea where it just hadn't worked for him. I think it was almost important to kind of redefine him, to give him that fresh start of saying, yeah, he's a midfielder now, we're going to reinvent him as a player. He has been reinvented as a player, but ultimately it has been as a centre-forward. I think it's now 8 games in which he started consecutively up front. And the numbers he's produced in that time have been brilliant. Goals, assists, another goal today, another assist today. He's really playing as a complete centre-forward in a way that I'm not sure too many people envisaged. And I'm going to make the headline of this, like, is the Kai Havertz midfield experiment over or something like that? And I don't mean that to sound too definitive, because there are times when you will want Kai Havertz in midfield. There are games where, that will be the appropriate choice, or stages within matches that's appropriate. But at this present point in time, he is the starting number 9. And I think I can say with confidence that he will be until the end of the season. And, in the summer, maybe we bring somebody in. Maybe that changes things. Maybe Arteta changes the tactical model. I think we know about him. He's going to change it year on year. He's going to always look to try and improve. But, yeah, I think Havertz looks like a player now who believes he can be a centre-forward at this level in the Premier League and the Champions League. He's delivering. His work rate, his physicality. As I say, he's getting on the end of stuff now as well. And the consistency with which you're able to pick him, the amount of minutes he can play. Avoided a yellow card today, which was good. It's important. I think he's probably going to be all right now in terms of risking a 2-match suspension. Yeah, I'm full of praise for him, really. And I think it's been a transformational period for him, one in which he seems to have learned something about himself. And I think maybe seems more accepting of the fact that he can play that position. He can more than play it. He's thriving. Look, I'm going to leave it there because I'm on holiday. As I say, I'm off to Mania tonight. Some of you will be watching, I'm sure. Others of you won't care at all. But the nice thing is that I'll be able to go there knowing that Arsenal have picked up another 3 points. And who knows what tomorrow will bring at Old Trafford. That United team are a mess, but United-Liverpool, it's not a game you can ever call. And that's the thing about our away games, Spurs can be a bit of a mess. United obviously are a mess, but Arsenal at Old Trafford, Arsenal at White Hart Lane, there's always that element of unpredictability. But we are becoming predictable in how professional we are, how disciplined, how organised, how resilient, how consistent. Team are playing in a manner right now that is a credit to the club. And so I congratulate them and the manager for that. Right. I'm going to leave it there. Hope you're well. I'll be back in England middle of next week. And, yeah, I'll leave it there. All right. Bye, guys.